Um, Thanks for coming to a new Startup Chile meetup. As probably you know, we do this every Wednesday at the same time. Today the rain is difficult in our normal schedule, but anyways, we'll do it. How many of you are involved with Startup Chile in any way? Please raise your hand. That means you know the program. What means in your case? You're applying. Okay. A different question. How many of you are applying to Startup Chile right now? Raise your hand. Cool. Hopefully you get in. We will communicate results in a few weeks. Moving forward with today's topic, Pablo is an entrepreneur from Startup Chile. He's an Argentinian entrepreneur. But the thing is, he works for more than 7 years, right? Yeah, behind intellectual property. And today in the world, intellectual property is a huge topic for many reasons. Most of you are entrepreneurs, so you know when you create things, when you invent not just products, but I don't know, processes or many different product services and procedures in general, you can have a patent. That could be good news or bad news depending on your approach to the intellectual property. So we believe that this is a very important topic. So it's good to have Pablo here because he can share his experience. So as always, this is a meetup. So Pablo will talk, 10, 15 minutes about this topic. And then the idea is you doing questions or one-on-one talk with Pablo or between you. Probably you know that in our meetups, sometimes there are people that meet other guy that is, is a developer, you are a commercial guy, and then start doing things together. So all the intention behind the meetups is to have a good excuse to attend, but afterwards is to meet more people and see how you can leverage on that people and doing partnerships or whatever you want. So thanks for coming. And Pablo, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm afraid it's going to be a bit more than 15 minutes. Thank you. I'm here thanks to Startup Chile. And before getting into my project, I worked 7 years at the patent office in Britain. And I wanted to share my experience with you to try to give you a little insight and a little bit of bearings to help you do things yourself, but only if you're constrained by the budget. I mean, the main warning is if your business is depending on this, that you try to get the services of a patent agent because it's a bit of a minefield and it's a very complex area. So I'm going to start showing you the basics of if you're doing websites, how to use copyright to protect interfaces. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about trademarks, and after that, give you an insight of how to do a patent. So you can protect interfaces in both ways. The main one is by copyright. If your interface is very special, like for example an iPhone that's got some sort of technical feature of how you sweep or some technical detail that provides a specific advantage, you might be able to protect it by a patent, but that's only 10% of the cases. I'm going to go with the example of one website from a Startup Chile team, and they were interested in protecting certain parts of the website. I mean, basically what you're looking to protect is a layout. So the best way to do this is to try to, as you work, try to document everything and document variations, as many as you can. One in the finished design, but also in wireframe format, like that, and try to vary things, the position of the buttons, more features, different type of layouts, change the position of the picture, whatever you think is useful, or if you're testing with A/B testing, try to find the ones that result the better for you and try to document those. To document these, You can, one way is to file a patent for interface design. Even if you don't get it, it's a good proof of that your sort of data priority and that you invented it. Here in Chile or in Latin countries, you can use a notary. You just deposit your designs with a notary and they keep it. Or in Europe, normally, or United States, you could post this by recorded delivery to yourself and leave it sealed. And that helps you to prove that you were the inventor because it's got a date on it. Not the inventor, but the creator. So document everything, do everything, put everything in an envelope or in an application and post it. The other way is you can also put all the variations on a secondary website and leave it online. So let's go on to trademarks. Trademarks, they must be distinctive of the goods and services. That means that they you can't use them. For example, if you're going to try to register in the class of cars, you can't have a trademark that says auto, for example. It has to be quite distinctive and different from what describes a product or service. It can't be too generic. It can't relate to geography, where it comes from, and there's many other limitations. But when you read an application, any office will give you the details of what you can't do, and it can't be deceptive. Many people, when they get a domain name, they for example, if they have a website that sells cars, it's great to get, for example, cars.com. And that's okay because their website is a service, which is not a car, even though it sells cars. But for example, if your website is a portal for selling property, then you can't call yourself, propertymarket.com. Well, you can, but you're not going to get a trademark for that because it's describing what it is. So even in some cases, the best thing is to try to find a completely different name, because the closer you are to the description of the product or the service, the more likely you're going to find lots of brands that are there and they're going to object to you. So the easiest trip along a registration process is try to be as unique and different as you can. What you can trademark is a brand. You can trademark a slogan for a business, and you can trademark a logo. Those are the main ones used. You can also trademark color schemes. For example, the oranges in, for example, TNT or the orange brand. For that, you need to sort of register the Pantone exact description. You can register smells and sounds, but these are little jingles that describe a business. But they're not very common. When you come to register, you'll have two options. One is to register just the name, and that's just the text without any sort of font feature to it. That's like in Arial, or you can or you can register your brand in a specific type of font or design. You can register the combination of the text and the logo, or the logo alone, and all those three are called figurative marks. So when it comes to the registration process, you'll be asked to choose whether you want word only or figurative. Word only is more difficult because it's broader, whereas the one that have already got a shape attached to it, they make you more different, and hence they're narrower and easier to register. So the more things you add to it, the easier it is. There's an example of figurative marks. Will be just the logo and the name in a specific font. If you want to register the word only, and it gets a bit more difficult, but you register just a plain text. So when you're trying to register a trademark, the best thing is to research the competition to see which niche classifications they're using. These are classifications for goods and services, and normally when you look up your competition, you know, the best thing is to take notes of all the classes and then read the description of those classes if you want to register in those or not. You normally come up with a list of between 2 and 6 classes, and the best thing is to narrow those down to 2, 3, or 4. The search engines you can use to look if you're going to have a conflict of trademarks with somebody else, or to look with, you know, you look up your competition. The best 2 are these. This is TM View, and it'll look all the European countries plus many others across the world. And the other one is the if you want to look the US ones, just go to the US website and you look at the TESS search engine. There you can look up the trademarks, see which names are similar to the one you want to register, and also look up the competition to see the classification marks. Now, when you come up with the finding the classes, try to bear in mind that you want to reduce, because for each class, additional class you register, they're going to charge you an extra, and when you go across many different countries, it becomes more and more expensive. Keep in mind that many classes are similar, one to the other. You know, a website, for example, is having a website service. The other one is doing advertising. So many websites have you know, AdWords, and they do both. And you're tempted to sort of register in all of them. Bear in mind that each class, when the examiners look up conflicts of interest, they want to make sure there's no likelihood of confusion between your brand, the brand you want to register, and the ones that are existing previously. And they're going to look at the same class and similar classes. So you've got to imagine you've got a small padding around each class, which will protect you. Even if you, for example, register in only class 35, it will protect you from other related classes which are similar. It's not hardcore protection, but you know, the examiners will keep a little bit of a distance between the trademarks and the classes. So yes, the registries, they'll work to try to help all these trademarks coexist together. Sometimes it will be the registration offices that will do the choices, but many times it'll be down to you to agree with other trademark holders if there is conflict. You know, reach a private agreements whether I can use it for this and you use it for that, and you write those down. And you can do that prior to trademark registration, or you can do it, you know, afterwards in the courts. You know, these down to where you're going to register your class is going to be down to negotiation, the courts, or negotiation with the examiner. Now, if you're interested in patents, we're going to do a little example with a chair. Is just to give you an idea of how the system works and how to approach it, because it's quite complicated. The example I'm going to have today is imagine you've come up with this chair. This is a chair that's got a bookshelf around it, and it works both as a chair and as a sort of bookshelf library. So the first steps you want to do is try to identify, you know, what you've got, what's essential, what's optional in your invention, what can be extra, and take note of all these things and use them as keywords for searching, because the first thing you want to do is look out if there's anything similar to your invention to see if you're going to be able to patent it. These are further questions you can do to you know, get your keywords. and to know exactly what you're going to come up with. So why do you need to search? One is because you need to identify the prior art, because your invention has to be new over the prior art, and it has to provide an element of invention over the prior art. And the prior art is everything that has been made available to the public up to the date of filing of the idea. It's got other things, but I'm not going to complicate now with sort of more subtle definitions. And basically, it's anything. It encompasses all the patent database from all over the world, any document printed anywhere, internet publications, brochures, even shared notes. So, you know, if there was some Indian tribe that managed to make this available to the public, and it can be used and documented in some way to show a date, it can be used against you as prior art, and it won't let you patent the idea. So the other thing you can use search for is to perfect your idea, because looking up similar things, you can find different features that or different way of doing things that actually help you mature your own idea, modify it, and improve. The search tools you can use, I mean, there's hundreds, but the main ones are the first step should be maybe Google, of course. You can look into Google patents, but that is only going to show you US patents. Up to a few years ago, US patents represented about 50% of all the patents, but now with the advent of China and Korea, it's getting smaller and smaller, maybe 30% now. But still a really good, easy to use interface, the Google one, and it's good to have a quick look. The more professional ones are Espasnet and the Patisnet. Espasnet is from the European Patent Office, and the Patisnet is from the German Patent Office. It uses the same backend database, but you can use advanced query language with these, which you can't use on other databases. And then, of course, you've got paid databases. Espasnet has got a paid one, which is providing a free trial, which is very handy to use. Delphion and all those. But any of these databases will take you about 2-3 days to learn the language and to get to use them. I'll just go quickly through Espasnet, which is the biggest database in the world. That one, you can go into, for example, advanced search, and for example, your idea was a combination of a chair with a bookshelf. So there you can put chair or seat in brackets. This is and then bookshelf or bookshelves, or different variations of how to write it. You can use these word marks in case you don't know which endings, or you know, to cover plural or whatever. The other way of searching that the patent system has is classifications. Keyword searching here is the same way you'd search like Google, but the great advantage of the patent system is they've invested many years in an ongoing system of classification, which is kept year by year and updated all the time. Here, every possible invention has been classified into some sort of bracket, and you can search with keywords there, and it'll give you the possible marks. These are the classification marks, and then you look up these marks and see if the actual description is describing what your invention. And you might get a few marks again, like 3, 4, 5, 2. So how do you search with these? The advantage is you can combine these marks with keywords. So now I've done a little exercise. For example, here, for the chairs, you get these 3 marks. And if you look for furniture and bookshelves, you get this mark. So you can combine the two together to find results. I mean, there's many strategies. I'll show you. One option is just searching the abstracts or the descriptions for the combination of the chair or anything or the variations of chairs and bookshelves and the variations of bookshelves. You can do the same. The second option is searching the keyword bookshelf and the marks corresponding to chairs. And the third option is using the keyword corresponding to seats or chairs and using the mark corresponding to bookshelves. A fourth option that also is not available through normal searches like Google is looking at the families. These are, every patent has got cited and citing documents. The citing documents are the newer documents that cite a certain patent you found as prior art. And the patent you found, at the same time, when they did the search for that invention, they looked up a lot of prior art and they found relevant documents that were similar. And those are the cited documents. So all these are like related documents that relate to the invention that you found. So once once you've searched and you found a document that's similar to yours, look up, down the cited documents and look up the citing documents, and those would be related too. So that's another way of searching. So you've got these four methods really: keywords, classification marks, and citing documents, and any combination thereof. These are what normally a patent looks like. That's an American one, and the Americans won't show the cited documents here at the front. These there, that collection of numbers. This is a PCT document, which is a world patent, and these normally have the citations on a search report at the end. But just want to show you two to show you what they look like. They all have got the abstract at the beginning. Here's the abstract for the world one, and a represented drawing. So these are the search strategies that I mentioned before. The combination of keywords, combination of international classification marks with keywords, combination between classification marks for one feature with classification marks for another feature, combinations of classification marks with the citations. So let's imagine you did the search and you found all these similar inventions, combinations of chairs with bookshelves. So it's not going to be easy to sort of patent that, because you've got to find a feature that's different. To be able to patent something, it must be new over the prior art, and it must be inventive, meaning basically that it has to have something that's different, which is not very obvious to a common person. And here really, the art is in trying to define the difference. If you're creative and you can define the difference in a way that can be pinned down somehow in words, then you'd be able to get a patent. The thing is whether this what you get is worth patenting or not, because sometimes the difference is so tiny that it doesn't give you a valuable sort of monopoly, which is the patent gives you a monopoly to produce or to do something. So you've got to analyze whether once you've done the search, the marginal advantage or the marginal difference you have in relation to the prior art is worth it. Sometimes it's worth it. Especially the big companies, what they use is very marginal advantages and marginal patents, but they file a huge number of them, so they build portfolios. And sometimes a patent is not very useful for selling to somebody else or for licensing, but it does build a bit of the assets of the company. and it helps it with prestige or marketing. So let's imagine for a minute that you do have an advantage. We're not going to mention it yet. I'm just going to run you through how to do a quick, how to draft the application yourself. The anatomy of a patent application, the basic elements are the abstract, the full description, the claims, and the drawings. It helps if you start with mentioning the field and giving a bit of background and describing the drawings, but that's not compulsory. The patent offices normally ask you to respect certain margins especially because of the past that they used to photocopy these, and that still remains. The best thing to start is the drawings. The other thing they ask you for is a minimum sort of that the numbers and the figures and all that have got a minimum size. Again, so they can photocopy it millions of times and it's all still readable. When you do an invention, apart from the written description, the best thing is to start with the drawings and then write in relation to the drawings, because that's the way a patent application is best done. And I recommend that you start drawing, even if it's handheld drawings, and number things in pairs, because you're always going to come back and have to add something new, and you don't want to be renumbering all your text. So, skipping one number at a time and say only odds or evens allows you to input lots of different things later. With, for example, here you found something new, you can put 11. And this is the way you start describing it. So, looking at the drawing, you'll say this chair has a leg, and you mention the number 16 that supports a back surface. The seating surface 10 is surrounded by two surfaces. I mean, here it'll be the two surfaces that define the bookshelf. An inner one, an outer one. And, the two surfaces are linked together by separating members that allow you to define the compartments. Once you start naming the objects, like seating surface or members, try to be consistent throughout the application. Once you've written all the description, how it works, and all this, the most difficult thing is to draft the claims. Here, this is a bit of an art, so if you can get the help of a patent agent, the better, but I'll just give you a little insight on how these are done. You've got to really think hard about what are the basic components, what are the basic features, and what enables the advantage that your invention is obtaining over what exists already. And keep in mind that drafting the claims is always going to change. It's going to change while you draft them. It's going to change when you find new prior art. It's going to change when the patent gets examined. And it might change even later when somebody objects to your patent once it's been granted. And you have to modify the claims because they found prior art later, or they're arguing that it's not novel or something like that. You might have to change them even when it has been granted years later. So this is, I'll get the most basic example of all and try to define it, chair, to show you how claims are defined. You've got to start with the components. Here, the most essential components of a chair are the seating surface, 12, the legs that support it, and the backrest. I mean, and that's the essence of it. I mean, many have many more features, but the most basic part of it is that. And you've got to start, in order to define something, claim is like when somebody defines, you want to define the title for your plot of land, you've got to do the same here, but not in 2D on the ground, but with also, this is almost like a 3D description or even multiple dimension description. So you're going to define terms in terms of things, of components, of relative arrangements between the components, etc. So imagine instead of just being a 2D plot, it's a 3D plot with where you're trying to define the shape. And you have to do all this with words, which is quite complex. So claims have their own sort of norms, and they have three main elements. One is the preamble, the definition, and a whereby clause. The preamble is a basic description. For example, here, seating device for a human user. The definition is where you start defining all the components and the arrangements it has. For example, here we'll mention the essential elements: the horizontal surface, arranged to support the bottom of the user; the vertical surface. We say it's connected to some sort of relative arrangement to the horizontal surface, and arranged to support the back of the user. And then the parts that support it, 4 legs, at a predetermined distance from the floor. Because of course, if you didn't have the vertical surface and you just had A and C, that could be a table. And again, so you want a predetermined distance, keep it sort of low enough to be suitable for a human being. So these are all sorts of different limitations that serve to define it and to constrain it to a certain dimension and certain number of components and a certain way of arranging things. And that here is the whereby clause, which is not really necessary, but it just finishes off explaining what the invention is for or what it achieves. So this is what the main chair was, and we see that we thought, okay, we've got a good claim there. But then we look at other chairs and we see that if we claim that, it wouldn't protect you for somebody inventing that, because that's got only, we defined that our invention had 4 legs and it had a vertical surface, for example, and this hasn't got it. It's just got 1 leg and the back surface is inclined. And again, you may get lots of different variations here. The surface isn't even flat. Again, you've got 1 leg. You might have all sorts of different constructions. So you've got to think a little bit broader of how to define your invention. If you want, your patent wants to cover all these variations as well. So you want to try to define it a bit more broader. That's another one. I mean, that's not even a members, it's a collection of things that define something, but it still works as a chair. So you've got to think hard how you define a patent for a chair that tries to cover as much as you can, but doesn't define the prior art. So this is like a first improvement over your claim. You say a first surface, and you don't say it's horizontal. You just say it's suitable for supporting the buttocks of a user. A second surface, again, it's not vertical. We just say it's connected at an angle to the first one. And then at least 1 support member. That means it can be either 1 leg or, or 2 or 3 or many. So you cover all the possibilities. But you're not covering that one. Again, this one said a second, the support member, which are the legs supporting the first surface, which is actually the one that supports the bottom. And the legs here are connected to the what would be the surface that supports the back, which is the second one. So, you know, again, if you want to cover that as well, you'd have to rethink your claims. It's really a difficult exercise. So again, how can we go back and patent our idea? And I thought, well, as it is, we can't patent it because, you know, all this prior art is really too close. It's too similar. So if I was an inventor and I still wanted to get a patent, I'd say, what about, I've got an idea now. What about if this, instead of being fixed, we made this, that you could rotate this as a carousel around the seat, and so that you could always like pick up your books from the top. And that might be useful for some. You know, you can't do that with these, so that might be an advantage. So okay, let's try to claim that. Again, you've got the two surfaces that represent the chair, the support member that represents the legs or whatever is supporting that chair, and the bookshelf surrounding the two surfaces, ranged to rotate concentrically in relation to the basic surface. I would say here the first one. And here the whereby clause says, you know, what you achieve with that. So you can tilt the bookcase to the desired angle with respect to the seat. So the most difficult thing is to get your main claim, which is that the main claim one is the most basic one, and the one that manages to be different from the prior art, but still get you something that is patentable. After the claim one, you can start adding things, you know, getting into more detail. And there's two ways of adding things or making things more detailed. One is adding more features to the, you know, the essential invention, or getting an existing feature and describing it a bit more in more detail. So to this invention of the chair, what could we add? We could add legs, we could add cushions, we could specify the type of subdividers that make up the bookshelf. We mentioned a rotation mechanism, but we could go into more detail on how that works. We could go into detail about the chair base, and we could go detail about, you know, optional extras, you know, a light maybe. So that was our invention, and this would be the way you define the dependent claims. I mean, dependent claims are called, if you've got a main claim, which is claim 1, you'll see in many patents claim 2, claim 3, claim 4, claim 5, and they all relate or go back to mentioning claim 1. The way you do when you add more elements, use this funny sort of phrasing which is called further comprising, and you add whatever you like. And when you're further defining a specific feature, you use this funny wording as well, which is called wherein the, for example, concentric arrangement comprises a circular rail, and that's, you know, you're defining a bit more how that concentric rotation mechanism works. So once you get to your claims, it's difficult. As I said, it's an interactive exercise. You go backwards and forwards all the time, and, you know, revise whether each of the features you've got is absolutely essential, or whether you can make it more generic. The thing is, when you make it more generic, likelihood is that that definition that you crafted might be catching or you know, defining prior art. If it does, you've got to narrow it down so that the definition is different. Always remember that this is like, you know, defining a plot of land. If somebody, you know, you can't encroach over the plot of a neighbor that has already got a title on adjacent land. So you've got to go around it, if you like. So you question yourself whether something is essential, whether it can be done in a different way. if you're generating electricity or whether it can be done by plugging by using batteries. There's so many ways of doing things for different things. I mean, and there are some resources where you can see methods of heating and methods of electricity, methods of producing vibrations and different things, and you can find all different ways of doing it. So you can incorporate that in your description and make your invention as broad as possible. You've got the possibility of defining more than one main claim. The US Patent Office lets you up to 3 main claims within the fee. But when you've got more than one main claim, the offices will look at whether the collection of features you've got, the common part between the main claims is whether that's still inventive over the prior art. For example, you could have one main claim in the case of the chair to a seat with a bookshelf and a single leg that is able to rotate or that's got wheels. Another main claim might say where you've got, for example, a pneumatic base. And although you still got the bookshelf and all that features, one is a base with wheels, the other one is pneumatic, and you want to make sure that the common part between the two is still inventive over the prior art. It's different from the prior art. If it's not, the worst that can happen is the office will ask you, okay, we can only give you one invention, and if you got 2, you have to file another application, and they give you the opportunity to either to choose or to file another one. So I'll go through the filing process within the UK Patent Office, which is where I used to work. And I'm showing this because it's one of the few, I think it's the only one that allows you to file for free. So you don't have to pay a cent to file, and that allows you to secure the priority date. So you can file and then find the money later. At the UK Patent Office, you'll need, once you've done all this application, you need to convert all these things into PDFs, one for the abstract, for the description, the claims, the drawings, and you must get an address for service in the European Union. You can use a friend, or you can use one of these address services that you can find on the internet, for which you can pay a small fee and use their address. So yeah, one thing is important. The abstract is optional at this stage. The abstract, the patent offices use it as if you don't file the abstract, the application will never get published, and that means nobody will know about it. So many people, when they put the application, they don't put in the abstract to make sure that it will only get published if they want and if they file the abstract, and it won't. Sometimes you forget and it gets published anyway, and maybe you didn't want to, to disclose all this prior art to the whole world. Your idea. So you can use it as a check to make sure that it only gets published if you want, and you hold back the abstract and file it only when it's necessary. So this is what the Patent Office website looks like. You go onto Online Patent Services, the Form 1, which is the one for filing a patent. Just go to fill in the form. It's a very quick process. Put the reference. Sorry. This here, you just put no. That is asking you whether you want to make this electronically available to other offices. Here you put the applicant. If you're inventor, there's two ways. An applicant is always a person. You can be either the inventor, or the inventor has given you the rights under a contract and ceded you the patent rights. So here goes the applicant, which is normally an inventor as well. Let me see if there's other things. Yeah, always, if there's more of you, even after you complete this, always press that button. It's not that intuitive there. And you add 2 or 3 applicants if necessary. If it's a company, because all this invention was developed under employment, you'll add the company as an applicant as well. If not, you just skip that point. This is if you need if you've got an agent representing you, but if you're doing it yourself, you haven't. Here's where you put your address for service. Again, if there is an applicant that's not an inventor, that might be a company or somebody who received, to whom you gave the patent by contract. If so, if there is, you put either by assignments or by virtue of employment, and you explain why, how that applicant, which is not inventor, has rights over that patent. If not, you just put no if all the applicants are inventors. Here, if you've got priority applications, but we'll assume you haven't, you don't want certificates, it's not a divisional application. Divisional applications are, when I explained before, if you've got 2 independent claims within an application and the office asks you to divide it and to make up 2 inventions, that one that was the second or the third invention would be called a divisional one. But you know, you're not going to be dividing if this is your first time. So you put no. You go title of the invention. That's easy enough. You put a title. Here you can upload everything as a single document or multiple documents. So here you upload the PDFs that you made up in the application, you know, the description, claims, abstract, and drawings. This is if you got a priority from another country. Say you filed here in Chile, or you filed in America, and you want to keep that date of the initial filing, you'll put the details here. But because the UK office allows you to file for free, likelihood that would be the first place you file. Now, you've got a word of warning here. Many countries, if you're filing something that relates to security or is very sort of strategic, don't allow you to file overseas. By law, you're required to file that invention first in your own country, and then they give you permission to file abroad. So if you have to check with the patent office, say if you're in Chile, and your invention is sort of strategic or relating to defense or something that's very important that could be to the state, check with them if you can file abroad first. So, sorry. Well, payment, because this is free if you just want to file, you don't need to pay anything. So you put payment no, and you just sign the declaration at the bottom, and you file a patent. And the nice thing about the UK Patent Office is the filing is free. You pay an application fee of 30 if you want them to review if you like, that the patent is okay for examining. I mean, that is only an administrative review, the £30. The second thing you pay for when you want to sort of keep advancing in the process is a search fee. And then once you get the results from the search fee, you can go, if you want to still go ahead, because the prior art that they came back with when they did the search shows that your invention has got high potential of being patented, then you can go ahead and do the exam fee. And all this takes about between 1 and 3 years. So what you get if you find at the UK Patent Office is you get a priority document that's good for any IPC country, which is most countries in the world. I think there's a few countries. Argentina's not there. A few countries in Africa, Afghanistan, and a couple of other countries, but most of them are within that IPC treaty, which is called the International Patent Treaty. So once you get a priority date in the UK, you can wait up to 1 year to decide whether you want to use that priority date in that application to file somewhere else. You can file, of course, in the US, you can file in Europe, and you can file for a world patent. But you've got to do this on the 12 months. And if you filed a world patent, a PCT called, that gives you about 30 months till you decide to split it into different countries. You can use that to then decide whether you want to file in the US, in Japan, in Germany, or a European patent, which at the same time covers you for the whole of Europe. So what you do is you buy time until you get further investment. Now all this is complex and a quick overview, but a book I suggest you read if you really want to do this is this one by David Pressman. It walks you through the whole process. It's geared to the US Patent Office to file a patent in America, but the teachings from that are good for almost all the patent offices. Things to consider when you look which countries you're going to file a patent for. Don't go for world domination if your budget is limited and you're not a multinational. Think of the countries where you can enforce your patent. I mean, China might be a huge market, but right now it's difficult to know if somebody's infringing your patent, and if they do, to get the courts to stop them is also difficult. So, do you want to bother registering in a country where you're not going to have presence, or you're not going to know anything? You're not going to be able to pay a policing agency to, police whether somebody's infringing your patent or not. If you're small, you can't do that. So you might as well just choose strategically some few countries where you want to file. And if you just have to choose two places, I would go for a US and a European patent, because the cost of applications are low, maybe $1,000 or €1,000, and you get huge markets. For €1,500, you get the whole of Europe. That's 27 countries. And in the US, for $1,000, you get roughly the whole of the US, which is similar to Europe in market. And any small country, that's going to cost you $200 to $300. So, for the cost of 3 small countries, you're getting really big countries there that are worth almost 10 plus. Of course, if you've got strategic interest or you're actively sort of in a certain area, you file in that country as well. Now, there's a startup in Chile that's called Semantic Patent Search. These guys are developing a search engine to help you search with only words, and it avoids a bit all the complexity I mentioned before about the classification system and the citations and all that. They're here in Startup Chile, so you can maybe get help from them. And once you've done your application and you want to try to license it to a bigger company or to somebody else, there's also a person here in Startup Chile that's got a lot of experience with licensing. In fact, he spent many years before doing licensing deals. Nathan, but he's not here now. That's all for me. Thanks a lot. Sorry, it was long and tedious, but it is a complex area. So if you've got any questions.
Thank you. Thank you for the class. It was a good class. I was wondering about when you have to patent software, like applications or software, because one thing is the copyright of the layout and the design, but when it's about software, or if we have like an inventive something for our software, can you talk to us about software?
That is patenting software is one of the most complex fields there is in intellectual property. I know because I did the sort of master's degree specifically on that. And I went through trying to patent software myself as well and failed. Normally, patenting software alone is not possible unless you get what they call a technical effect, which is normally a type of software that does something in industry. That would be, I mean, the most clear case would be software sort of controlling a CNC machine, or, you know, like the Megabot that does the 3D printing, or that controls the process in an industrial plant, that sort of thing. You can also get software that improves the, you know, the efficiency of a computer, because, for example, it controls the, for example, the fans in a way that makes it work in, you know, cooler, and therefore can, you know, allows the computer to work at a higher speed. Anything that, you know, uses the devices within a computer, like, you know, the memory or the bus or things like that, and try to manage these more efficiently. That sort of thing would be patentable. And I must say, if you're trying to patent a software patent, always go for the US office first, because that's, they tend to allow that a lot more than the European Patent Office or the rest of the world. It used to be that before you could patent software or business methods in the US office almost without problem, but they're clamping down on that, and they're getting closer to the European view on patenting only software or business methods that have a technical effect. So, you know, as long as you try to show that it's going to control something, and it's going to provide a tangible result, and it's not just displaying data, you might have a chance. But if you're patenting software, the best thing you can do is go not only to a patent agent, try to find the best in the business and people that specialize in that, because not any patent agent will be able to get that one through. It's really difficult. Go to a specialist. Any other questions? Yeah.
Hi, I have a couple of questions. The first one is, what is the difference between first to invent and first to file? Because I heard like the US patent system, they're gonna change from first to invent to first to file. And I have two questions, sorry. So the second one, I want to ask, is there any other thing that can make like a patent filing become failure? I mean, like I heard, I read before that might be, the patent might become failure if like, I don't know, it's been like covered in media before, or like have been, like we've been talking to some investor without NDA before, something like that.
Right. The first question is, what's the difference between first to invent and first to file? The American office works differently to the rest of the world. And in this case, It happens with that patenting computers and business method. They allow it. The rest of the world doesn't. But in this case, they benefit the inventor. The US office is the only office that allows, if you can prove that you were the first to invent something, because you can show notes or documents or testimonies, even if you didn't file a patent, if you can prove that you were first to invent in the year prior to filing, then you still get protection. The rest of the other offices, if you haven't filed, it doesn't matter whether you were the first inventor or not. It's a race to the first to file, and they'll give the rights of that invention to the one that filed first. So it's always better to file, and it's free in the UK office, because while you still get the advantage in the US, if you want to protect your invention in the rest of the world, it won't be valid. The notes won't be good enough. And the second question was how to avoid your patent, how not to disclose your patent before filing it, because if you do, how to take care of not making your patent public before you go to file it. So there are some exceptions. I mean, there's some, you're allowed to exhibit at world fairs, but there's only certain categories of world fairs, up to 6 months before filing. But don't take notice of that because it's only very specific world fairs. You can't show it anywhere else, really. So if you disclose something, always try to disclose it under a confidentiality agreement. And the criteria is not to make it available to the public. If you show it to a friend and he's not supposed to show it to anybody else, then he shouldn't. And that won't be considered made available to the public. But if you showed it to somebody, a small meeting, and you didn't tell them that they should keep confidentiality and it wasn't obvious, then that was disclosing it for the first time, and that's shooting yourself in the foot. And if they claim later that this was made public is just two or three persons, then that can act as a proof, and you won't be able to get the priority of the filing date. So, always try to act under confidentiality agreements. Don't put it on the net. Don't print it. Don't show it to any group of people, unless it's under that sort of framework, confidential framework. You show it. And you say this is under confidence. And if you can manage to prove that it was in confidence, if they disclose it, that's an illegal disclosure, but then that illegal disclosure doesn't count as a public disclosure. Is that clear? So only legal disclosures count as made available to the public. But if they did it contravening your confidentiality agreement or understanding, then that was an illegal disclosure, and it doesn't count as a public disclosure.
Okay. Pablo, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you guys for coming, and waiting for you in the next meetup. It's next Wednesday. Okay, so thank you. This place is gonna close like in 5 minutes, so that's why we close it. So, but thank you. Bye.